Why am I not surprised we're here again? It's really hard to believe, I know, but Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is absolute garbage. I'm not quite sure if it's worse than the likes of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness or Thor Love and Thunder, but it's definitely in the same ballpark. Let's begin with the fact that this might be the ugliest MCU movie to date. Now, I had massive complaints with the use of the volume tech in Thor Love and Thunder. My biggest problem was how it never looked as if any of the characters were actually in the environments. Like, what even is this? Somehow it's 10 times worse here. It's like they don't even bother to light the actors in accordance with the environment. It always looks as if they're stood in front of those big LED screens. I could never get fully invested in the movie because I never believed any of the characters were actually there. All I saw was actors stood in front of big screens. Oh, how I miss the days of green screen. The Quantum Realm also looked extremely dull. If you're gonna make a massive deal over the Quantum Realm in the marketing and advertise it like, oh, you must see this on the biggest screen possible.
I feel like you can't get a big enough screen for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Then at least make it look visually appealing. This entire movie looks like mud was splattered onto the screen. Instead of vibrant and colourful, they decided dark, murky and brown was the way to go. Why are all Marvel projects not made by James Gunn so afraid of having colour? Okay, I'm adding this bit in whilst editing as I've noticed that between trailers, Marvel changed certain shots and removed a lot of the colour. The shots from the first trailer look so much more vibrant than the ones in the actual movie. Whose idea was it to change these shots and make the film look worse as a result? Also, whenever the ant people were fully CGI, they all look like they're made of rubber. There was one shot that stood out to me of shrunken Cassie running in battle and she looked so cartoony. In fact, that whole scene that they released before the movie came out looks so terrible. Like, this is really the scene you're gonna show people to try and get them to see your movie?
Not a great plan.
And I cannot talk about the visual effects without talking about MODOK! What on earth were they thinking? There were so many instances in my showing of the film where he'd appear and the audience would just laugh. Did they think it looked good, or did they know it looked horrendous and think people would find it funny? Either way, I'm glad he was there because he made the movie far more enjoyable than it would have been without him.
I don't know what to be. Tell me what to be.
I don't know, just don't be a dick.
It's too late. Look at me. I'm such a dick.
How is this movie real? Please, Marvel, slow down on the amount of projects you're pumping out and give the VFX artists time to perfect their work. Because everything you've made in the last year has ranged from okay to absolutely hideous looking.
Shortcuts were reportedly taken on VFX for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, with critical resources diverted towards Black Panther Wakanda Forever. The team was said to be severely understaffed while facing an unrealistically short deadline.
God's sake, Marvel. Let's move on to the writing in this movie. It's awful. The plot is very contrived and makes no sense whatsoever. For instance, the setup of the film is Cassie has been secretly working on this device that allows her to explore the quantum realm without actually having to go. They leave it very, very vague as to how any of this works because, let's be honest, the writers probably don't know themselves. The device sends a signal down to the quantum realm and Janet is like, oh no, turn it off, this is bad. So she does. Unfortunately for them, the signal to the quantum realm was received and they are pulled through by MODOK. There's a number of reasons as to why this is stupid and makes no sense at all. The only reason any of this happens is because Janet is stupid enough not to tell anyone about the psychomaniac in the quantum realm. The movie tries to go for the whole, oh, she doesn't really want to talk about it thing. But for her not to inform anyone about Kang, knowing that if he gets out of the quantum realm then millions of lives are at risk, is so stupid. None of this movie would have happened if these characters just spoke to each other. Also, when they actually get sucked into the quantum realm, a few of them go in without any of their suit tech on. They should be very, very dead. The movie tries to sidestep the problem by having Hank say,
we should be dead.
Why aren't we?
I don't know.
You haven't fixed the problem by saying that, you've just acknowledged that there is one. In terms of how the characters are written, when it comes to our main protagonist, I would say Ant-Man comes out pretty good in comparison to how Thor and Doctor Strange ended up at the end of their films. Might have something to do with the fact that this is hardly even Ant-Man's film. It's way more about Cassie and Kang. Speaking of, Kang is a really pathetic villain and I cannot fathom how people are trying to compare him to Thanos. Firstly, his backstory makes no sense. The movie establishes that other versions of Kang banished this one to the quantum realm because they saw him as too dangerous, but they banished him with his ship. If he was that dangerous, what in your brains is telling you first not to just kill him, but second that it's a good idea to banish him with his ship that he could possibly use to escape? How do you write this? How do you read this and go, yes, that's excellent, bravo? Later in the movie, there's a moment where he's going on a killing spree, then a character we recognize shows up and he just lets them get away. Kang never really comes across as a major threat, and I'm not quite sure how they expect us to fear future variants of him, considering this one is defeated by Hank Pym's technologically advanced ants. No, I am not joking. MODOK literally spawns in out of nowhere, like he just appears out of thin air. He disables Kang's shield, and then the ants destroy all his armor, or something.
My name is Darren, and I am not a dick!
I can't believe this movie is real. This has to be a wind-up, surely. It has to be a joke. Speaking of those ants, how convenient that when everyone's pulled into the quantum realm, the ants are transported to a different part of the realm where time moves faster so they advance quicker. What in the Rise of Skywalker is this writing? The film on so many occasions makes Kang seem really stupid. For example, in the final battle between him and Ant-Man, there are many instances where Lang is on the floor struggling to get back up and Kang just decides that he isn't going to go through the portal to escape. I was just sat there watching, thinking to myself, why hasn't he gone through the portal yet? Lang is literally on the floor and you're just standing there. Go through the portal, you idiot! When it comes to the dialogue and the comedy, the film tries so hard to be funny and it just isn't a lot of the time. The biggest laughs the movie got from my audience was a joke already shown in the trailer and MODOK! Also, the movie can't seem to decide what it wants its tone to be. At first, it seems like it's moving away from the light-hearted tone of the first two films, but that's not what the movie is at all. It somehow seems more focused on the comedy this time around, and the majority of it falls flat. The post-credit scenes have been like the only thing I've seen people praising about the movie. I'm not gonna lie, I thought they were pretty stupid. The first one was just Kang showing off the different outfits he got from the fancy dress shop, whilst explaining how they need to stop the Avengers from getting involved with the multiverse. The whole thing just felt really weird, like I never felt as if I was seeing different versions of the same character. I felt like I was watching Jonathan Majors dressed up in different costumes. The second end credit scene is set up for Loki Season 2. Yes, we're now at the stage where these films aren't just setting up other films anymore. They're now setting up Disney Plus shows that the majority of the people who saw this movie probably won't even watch. Now, you may be thinking, did I actually like anything in this movie? Well, I think some of the actors did a pretty good job. Despite his character being poorly written, I think Jonathan Majors gave a pretty good performance as Kang. I would also say Michelle Pfeiffer's performance was pretty solid. When the film actually gives Paul Rudd the chance to be his usual charismatic self, he's fun to watch. The same can't be said for Kathryn Newton, however. I think she gave a pretty awful performance here. Evangeline Lilly's Wasp was really thrown to the wayside here. Your film's called Ant-Man and the Wasp was barely in the movie. I somehow failed to see the thought process behind this. Also, Michael Douglas didn't really seem like he wanted to be there.
And this is the third installment in the franchise. If they did a fourth, would you come back?
As long as I could die.
Wait, I'm supposed to be talking positives. I think Kang's costume was well designed. I did quite like the look of it. That's all I can really think of off the top of my head. This is just yet another MCU disaster to add to the pile. It's really felt like Marvel has been going downhill for the past couple of years, but this film made me realise that they've just completely lost it. Gone are the days where the Marvel intro playing before the film would actually excite people. Gone are the days where it would feel like the people behind these movies actually cared about making a good product. Now we just get rushed, poorly made garbage that everyone forgets about the day after they see it. We're just never gonna get anything on the same level as Infinity War or Guardians of the Galaxy or Iron Man again. The longer they keep hiring these appalling writers that haven't got a clue what they're doing, the more terrible, forgettable movies and shows we're gonna receive. According to recent information, it seems like they're finally slowing down on the amount of Disney Plus shows they're putting out. But I can't help but feel like it's too little, too late. No one knows what's happening in Phase 4 and 5 or the Multiverse Saga. None of these projects feel connected in the slightest. None of them have introduced us to characters as intriguing or likeable as Tony Stark or Steve Rogers. Marvel's mission seems to be destroy legacy characters and replace them with bland, poorly written alternatives. I sure cannot wait for those 2 Avengers films made up of Miss Marvel, Shang-Chi and She-Hulk. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my rant on Ant-Man 3 Quantumania and the current state of the MCU. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Goodbye.